This is Zichru Daf Simanim Gemara in Zevachim Daf Bayis. We're going to try B'siyata D'Shmaya once again to get back into the Zichru Simanim, an incredible memory tool to memorize exactly what's going on in the Daf, and a wonderful Chazara tool, as we'll see. So Daf Bayis always is, what is Bayis? Bayis is a Bayis. Bayis is a house. So the picture in our mind, and the way this works best is if you paint the picture in your mind, then you always can think about, okay, picture of a Bayis, of a Bayis, a Zevachim. What's a house have to do with Karbanos? Oh, it's a house of Karbanos, or more importantly, it's a Shaloi Lishma house, as of course Daf Bayis is all about Shaloi Lishma. And detail number one is going to be most Karbanos, which are shechted shaloi lishma, as we see the Kehanim are telling the Bailam over here, shechted shaloi lishma. The halacha is it's kosher, but the owner has to bring another carbon la'olu la'bailam l'shem chayva. Detail number two that we learned is that even though the shechita was shaloi lishma, but the zrika has to be lishma. So when the Kahanim are being trained in the Bayis that you train Kahanim, the Shaloi Lishma Bayis, they tell the Kahanim, remember, but the Zrika, the sprinkling of the blood, still has to be Lishma. And detail number three is as they're training the Kahanim in another room, they tell them that when it comes to a carbon, Stam is okay. Stam is Lishma. Why? Because a carbon is Zvachim, is Lishma Oimdim, is standing for Lishma. Whereas the contrast, of course, is when it comes to a get is not standing for Lishma. So again, Daf Bayis in Zvachim is talking about Shaloi Lishma. Most Karbanei Shaloi Lishma is going to be kosher, but the owner still has to bring another carbon. Even though the Shechita was Shaloi Lishma, the Zrika has to still be Lishma. And this is only by a carbon, because the carbon is Lishma Oimdim, not by a get, which is not Lishma Oimdim. Now we're going to go, we have a beautiful chazar over here of all 3 points. Point number one is that can be most karbanai shloi lishmar kasher, but shloi lebailim l'shem chayvasam. It's going to be kasher, but shloi lebailim l'shem chayva. Where there are some karbanais that when they're shloi lishma, it's going to be puzzle. Now we have 4 shitais in the Mishnah. Tanakama holds Pesach on Erev Pesach, and chatas or any time. Shloi lishma, entirely puzzle. Shita number 2 is going to be Rav Eliezer. He adds on an asham, because an asham is similar to a chatas. Shita number 3 is Yossi ben Chayni, who says any carbon which is shechted for the chatas or that Pesach, reminiscent of the Tanakama, is possible. And finally, number 4 is Shimon Achi Azariah. Achi Azariah, because Azariah supported him, says it has to do with if it's shechted for a higher intent or a lower intent. A higher intent, kachim kalim for a kachim is going to be good. A lower intent will not be good. Point number 2 is that even though it's going to be kosher, but the rest of the avodah has to be for the right purpose, which is going to be that even though you messed up the shechita, but don't mess up further, says the Mishnah. Ella, what does that word Ella teach me? Teaches me that it still has to be continued in the appropriate fashion. Why? Because Ushasei Kaimi says, Rava, you still have to do the Zrika Lishma. One of 2 reasons. Either it's a Svara, because you messed up once, you want to keep on messing up, or we learn out from the pasuk on the bottom of Beis Amarav, Kshanadart L'Shem Lekecha Nidava. Why does the pasuk first say nadir, then the nedava? Teach you if it's a nadir, great, and if not, it should stay as a nedava, and you should continue in the lane, meaning don't mess up, because you messed it up the shechita, don't keep on messing up, and rather do the zrika lishma. Point number 3 is going to be that karbanais, and this goes on to Beizim and Beiz, are stam lishma, but getting on, this begins, Ravina told Rav Papa that he was outside the tchum, and he missed a beautiful shir, in which the Rava adds stiras and answer them up. So the first stira was between the stam lishma by a shchita and the stam lishma by a gittin. When it comes to shchita, what do we see? We see that if we're shaloi lishma, then it's kasher b'loy l'bayim l'cheshim chayva. It doesn't work for the owner. But stam, we see, is going to be lishma, and the stira is going to be, what about by get? By get, we know stam is no good. So Rava answers that when it comes to a carbon stam lishma, naim din zvachim are standing for a carbon, but an isha b'stam alav legerushin aim din. A woman is not standing for Gerushin. And really, we'll take the 3 points backwards. That third point that we just said in our Bayis, our Daf Bayis, our Shalei Lishma house, the third point is going to be how a get is not standing Lishma, whereas a carbon is standing for lishma. Point number 2 is going to be, even if you mess up on one part, don't mess up the next point, whether it's going to be because of a svara or whether it's going to be because they're not from a pasuk. And point number 1 is going to be that when it's shechted shalei lishma, but loy alu l'baylim sham chayva, the owner still has to bring another carbon. Zevachim daf Bayis, the shalei lishma Bayis house.